Hello. We are live here at the Tabletop Call-In Show. As always, I am Adam Bell, and I'm
I'm
joined
Jeremy
by...
Gage.
Wow, I spoke right over you. Do it again.
I'm Jeremy Gage.
And I'm Adam Bell. I am. This is the Tabletop Call-In Show. We're going to talk about games with whoever wants to call in. Oh boy.
Tyler Crumb, right? Out the gate, dude.
Somebody, the call queue, I messed it up, but I don't care. However they get in, they get in. I tried to make an archive. Anyway, starting over. This is the Tabletop Call-In Show. I'm Adam, joined by Jeremy. Of course, we're going to talk about games with whoever wants to call in. So we're going to be taking questions, taking stories. If you want to tell us about something, if you want to tell us about a cool game coming soon, if you want to, I don't know, anything. Anybody can call in except for landlords. They are not allowed. And if I find out you're a landlord and you've called into my show, I don't know what I'll do, but it won't be pretty. Yeah, how's it going, Jeremy? What have you been up to? Anything?
All the things. Booking interviews left and right for the Draw Your Dice podcast. I finally got Jeff Stormer to agree to be on the show, so really excited for that episode. And yeah, that's about the nitty gritty.
Okay. I haven't been doing much tabletop stuff this week. I've been playing a lot of Yakuza 0. I brain designed a new game the other day. It's going to be good if I ever actually make it. I don't know if you ever do this, but sometimes you just don't have paper out and you're just thinking about a game and it's good.
I did it last night. I did it last night, in fact. Yeah, something about like command arrays and bands and cards and all sorts of things.
Okay. Yeah. Mine is what did I call it? Shit. It's about a spaceship that's about to self-destruct. It's like a run-based... It's kind of deck building on accident. It's not really deck building, but it's like a real-time run-based game where the spaceship is about to explode, and you're going to be going through a deck of cards that tell you like the challenges that you are facing to get off the ship, and addressing those challenges by like writing on a note card, and then going through what everybody did, like Space Alert. So it's deck building in that you can use note cards from previous rounds. So if previously you were like, "Oh, I kick in the door," then you don't have to spend the time writing that this time. You just slam your... Anyway, I think that'll be fun.
I love it. That sounds like Time Stories in a way. Have you ever played that board game? You
I
should.
haven't.
It's like an RPG board game. Check it out.
Maybe I'll check it out.
You don't have
Maybe
a
I
choice
will.
now.
I have to. I'm contractually bound. Yeah, any other arguably low-tier banter that you want to get through, or should we start taking calls?
Last thing is, hey, I'm excited for Monster Hunter Rise. Let's go, all hunters. Fucking lit on the Switch.
Good luck. That's not for me. So I think our first caller, we're looking at Discord user Tyler. Yeah, got in. I wanted to hide the archive from the people, but they'll be fine. So I'm going to bring Tyler in. Hello. Thanks for calling the Tabletop Call-In Show. Who are we talking to? Let me get you up on.
Hello, this is Tyler. I'm watching it on Twitch, so I'm going to mute it there so that I only hear you here.
That's
Hello.
a good call.
Hello, how are you? How are you doing today?
Doing great. How about you?
Good, great.
I'm good, kinda. That's kind of what I want to call about.
Ooh.
I just really need some help from the Colin Bros, from the Collins Feral.
Is that our title now? The Call-In Bros?
I don't know. You gotta workshop this stuff early in a show's life cycle. I want to be like the mother of whatever name you all are called, so I'm just gonna keep throwing them.
Okay, so you want to be the mother of the Call-In Bros?
Yeah. I honestly though I feel like Colin Farrell's is the stronger one, but as you may have heard, I just took a sip of tea, went for a walk here on the Millvale Trail, which was harrowing because spring fever's got folks just really reckless out there.
Same,
you know,
across
a lot of people that don't realize that small choices they make could put their health at danger. But all this ties into what I wanted to ask about today. How do the two of you deal with anxiety and like being patient within the scene? Specifically for me, it's the fact that, you know, I have this Kickstarter that's going up on Tuesday, something I've been preparing for since November of last year, but really, you know, the last 3 years as I worked on these games in it. And now I'm kind of I just have to be patient right now before I hit go on Tuesday. But I know that I'm looking down the barrel of a 30-day stretch where I'm just gonna have to not refresh every 5 minutes. I'm gonna have to find ways to just, you know, be proactive, but also be kind of live with that anxiety and find ways to mitigate it. So Adam, as someone who has ran multiple Kickstarters, and also Jeremy, you know, even just like, I think that it's not something foreign to the podcaster experience either, of, you know, like the anticipation moments and like waiting for people to respond to querying emails, so like racking your brain, like what did I say to offend Jeff Stormer? Is he ever going to get back to me? You know, anything that the two of you might have to say on like being patient and dealing with like the anxiety that is kind of inherent in any creative field that relies on people interacting with the thing that you're making, you know?
Yeah. You want me to go first? You want me to try this one? So I think, first off, Tyler, for you in particular, I think one way to deal with it, which this is going to not sound helpful at all, would be to put in basically the amount of work ahead of time to get enough eyes on your project. I think that I just believe that you've been doing a very good job of that. So that a lot of that, like, front loaded the very beginning. I think your thing is going to do great at the beginning of it, and then obviously Kickstarter doldrums aside.
Obviously
that
do great at the start, but then it will bottom out.
Yeah, and then you just have to sit there and wait as a couple of people trickle in every day for a month, in and out, you know. So once you're in there, not refreshing is a good thing. If you can somehow distance yourself from the apparatus of Kickstarter itself, you don't need to be looking at it. It won't change it if you look at it. You don't need to be, I mean, you're going to be thinking about it, but you don't need to be thinking about it. And that's a very difficult thing, but I think halfway through my campaign for Grasping Nettles, I came to a way to help myself, which hopefully we'll share. And that was recentering my expectations to where they were at the beginning. Because with that big spike that happens at the beginning of many Kickstarter projects, you like that part of your brain just gets a little bit addicted to that feeling of people just pouring in and the numbers way bigger each time you check it. But recentering back to being like, oh wait, I set my goal to be this, and I'm like well on pace for that, so there's nothing to be worried about. Because I think it's very natural to, like, as soon as that big spike comes in, then all of a sudden your brain is setting all these other goals that it's not really telling you about, but it's like, oh, but what if I could get to 15 times what I asked for at the beginning? And then you're starting to spiral.
Yeah, that really makes a lot of sense to me, and it's something that is a good thing to keep in mind as I go into this, because I remember with Beak, Feather, and Bone falling into that trap. You know, I think it's a little easier. Well, I've never done a 30-day Kickstarter before.
Yeah,
you know, my last one was a Zine Quest. But it's definitely very easy to kind of fall into that trap, especially after funding day one, to just like look at all of those websites. They're like, here's your graph, and if you keep up this pace, you're gonna fund 3,000%.
You're gonna be a millionaire.
and suddenly you're measuring your success based on like whether or not you hit like this number that some random algorithm said that you're capable of versus what you're actually capable of or what's realistic to kind of hold yourself to.
Right. Yeah. So like if you've done your job ahead of time and set your like your funding goal to be something that like will cover the costs that you're sinking into this thing, that is ultimately the goal, and everything else you should feel good about.
Cool. Well, thank you. Jeremy, what do you have to add?
Well, thank you, Tyler, for asking.
How have your Kickstarters gone?
So well. No, for me, I can't speak to when you're creating something that is bringing in a relatively large sum of cash. And, you know, when I say relative, is that the amount of money is always relative to the person who's receiving it, right? But for me, when it comes to the work of putting something out that you're passionate about and then getting positive and or negative responses to any of that stuff can also be anxiety inducing, because there's always an intrinsic value within yourself to want to be liked by as many people as possible, right? So when you hit those negative things, I can see how they sort of weigh on you or weigh on me. I think about it all the time. For me, I just kind of drown myself in. I have a very good like.
So I should drown myself.
Okay.
Okay. I mean,
Okay.
hey, Pittsburgh's got a lot of rivers, so.
So when you
see if you could swim across the Allegheny, and if you can, then we could play a game. You know,
cool. Yeah.
We could break quarantine for that.
Yeah. No, I'll still be wearing a mask.
Okay.
It'll just be a scuba mask.
I do a lot of batched work ahead of time for the podcast. Like I will record 3 or 4 episodes, I will edit them all, I will set them on published dates, and then I will also schedule like marketing tweets ahead of time. And basically the thing that keeps my stress at a minimum is just to know that the work is done. Like we live in an age of very cool technological tools, AIs, logarithms, all of that stuff. And I think it's beneficial to just be, even with the internal, I've never seen the background stuff that has to do with Kickstarter, like all the messages they send you of like, hey, look at where you're at now. If you did X, right? But it's like, I feel like for me, even if I were to see those things, I wouldn't, I don't care. I wouldn't read the email. I wouldn't look at it because I know that I've already done the structured work that I want to do for this success. And if I want to pull any audibles, I will. Like if I read it, if I even do read it and go, oh, okay, well, I guess I could do like an extra scheduling day on the rip. Sure. But I let the work kind of take care of my anxiety. And if I can do any extra work for like the next month, sure, I'll put myself even further ahead. I don't mind. And then that keeps me flexible and versatile. So that's how I manage it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And there's definitely, you know, there's no dearth of things that I can be working on for the future. And I think, you know, channeling that like refresh anxiety into like, well, you know, whether it's funded or whether it's trending towards funding or what have you, or even if it's trending towards a failure, just being like, hey, instead of agonizing about what I could be doing right now, have confidence in what I've done and start working towards the next step. Whether it's like writing out the game for when people, you know, are expecting it in X months, or, you know, taking that game and like recalibrating it for like, all right, if this winds up being like a digital only itch.io drop as opposed to, you know, this like specialty bound edition, how do I need to recalibrate to make sure that that's like, you know, a good use of my time and finances and stuff on that smaller scale. Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I appreciate both of your feedbacks as Colin Chains. As
wow.
Call
brutal
me as Call Me Maybes. As Call by your podcast
Keep it
show.
coming. Call.
No, I can't really.
Call.
So like, do I hang up or do you hang up or like?
Well, first,
Who says I love you first?
before we do that, I mean,
It's always me.
we've mentioned that you do have a Kickstarter coming in, but you should tell the listening audience who may or may not know what the hell we're talking about like where to find that.
Yeah.
Kickstarter.
So I've got a Kickstarter coming up, the Possible Worlds RPG subscription box, where you're going to be able to back either a digital or a physical tier and get 6 games once a month over the course of 6 months. And if you do like the premium backer level, then you'll also get a nice box of them all collected and printed. But it launches on Tuesday at 11 a.m. here in Eastern time. I'm very excited.
That's soon.
Feeling, like equal parts confident and anxious. And if folks want to take a look at that, you can sign up for the pre-launch notification at ttrpg.link/pw. Thank you, Tony. Or you can head over to possibleworldsgames.com where you'll find all the stuff that I do.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for calling in. Thanks for talking to us.
Yeah, I love you.
I love you. I'll see you for your interview this
Wait,
week.
Adam.
Hang on.
Adam, I love you.
Hey, I love you.
Say it back.
All right. Bye.
Normal shit. All right. See ya.
Casual-ish.
Yeah. Hey, anxiety, huh? How about those brains?
So weird.
They really like to take dumps on themselves, don't they?
Oh,
The brains inside our skulls.
the brain dump.
Yeah.
That wasn't awkward at all. Thank you, Jimmy, for noticing that. Yeah, I can't say that I'm too terribly affected by anxiety, except when it comes to like friendships, especially like internet ones, because I'm always struggling like, what do they actually think about me? But otherwise, I literally don't give a shit about anyone's opinion most of the time. When internet wise, like Twitter, discourse, BS, all that stuff.
Yeah. There's like half-formed thoughts that I keep attempting to say, but then they fall apart as soon as I want to speak them. So yeah, it'd be cool. What's going on? Who else is in the queue? How are we doing today?
Moving forward.
Today I went
taken back by the I love you.
No, well, earlier today I went disc golfing again, and so I think I'm a little more physically tired than I was last week, and so I'm working through that. It was good.
You're so goddamn fit.
I'm not is the thing. That's
Yes,
that's the
are.
problem is I do the things, but then I'm tired. Clayton is next in the queue if we want to stop whatever the hell's happening here.
Wow, 2 in a row. Clayton, let's go.
I'm gonna wait. What do you mean 2 in a row?
Clayton called last time too.
Did he?
Yeah.
Hello. Thanks for calling the
my
Tabletop
God.
Call-In Show.
Hello.
Who's this?
Hello.
It's a pleasure. I'm surprised that you guys haven't taken on a like shock jock aesthetic already. Like you could be like 98.5 NZ and then just like go off on like these riffs.
I wish we did have. We need a radio. We need to get syndicated on a radio station
Yeah.
because I think that would make this feel a lot better.
Go to a college radio station where they just can't find anything to fill the airwaves, and you'll be on it all the time.
I can't imagine Sunday at 4 p.m. is super competitive on the radio waves.
Exactly. Or at the very least, like maybe Jeremy, maybe you could have like just a soundboard where you just press a button and it just does like a spring boing and like or like other like assorted like canned noises that you can just use on Adam.
I want a soundboard so bad.
Wouldn't that be sick? Or her voice modulator? Yeah. Anyway, I'm supposed to like give you guys a conversation topic, right?
I mean, we could start with some chat. That's
Yeah.
no, that
We like you.
That's a waste of a waste of yours and everyone's time. Let's go with we got a spicy conversation, or we can have just a really interesting question for you guys. Which one should we do? Should we do the slightly spicy, or should we do the sort of compelling one that's like good content that'll get you on YouTube or whatever?
Give one of us one and the other the other.
Oh wow.
God. All right. Let's match it to your aesthetics. All right. Adam. Now, I'm the layout person. I love layout, and but I think layout can happen in any way the creator feels like. What is a product that you loved whose layout was terrible, or that you saw it and you were like, man, I wish that were just it was like 90% there. You get to choose which degree of toxic you want to be on this one. But
yeah,
this is something that people ask me, and I'm always like,
Don't make me do it.
I'm not a negative person.
Yeah,
I don't want to do that.
Me too. So like, I am, as far as like my layout goes, because I do the layout for my own games, and I'm not.
Oh, I've seen it.
I'm not a layout king, by any means.
No, that's all right.
I'm a very. I mean, it works. I get it done. I think is the thing.
That's usually the goal of layout. You know,
right.
It's not supposed to be the thing you stunt on.
But unless
you can, by all means, go ahead. Like, sport the drip, you know. But whatever. Anyway.
So yeah, I don't know that. I guess I'll just get it ahead of time, out of the way. That like I am not the person here that should be criticizing layout because I don't know anything. But let's think of one that I wish was better. And so I assume here that what I want to be considering would be something that has reached a commercial release, like any given itch game. Like I'm not going to expect some beautiful layout by somebody putting out a PDF, but something that somebody was like, I'm going to print this. I'm going to go through the cost. And I'm looking over at my shelf and I'm hoping that something will come to mind. If you have an answer that you want to get in there while I think, by all means.
Yeah, sure. I'll buy you time. So, first off, like, there's no way to answer this question that it has been asked to me multiple times without it sounding like I'm going to punch something. So it's always good to punch up. In this case, the layout that I think of is always like a Dungeons and Dragons Wizards of the Coast product layout. Yeah, I've seen some really good indie makers make stuff for D&D that is great, and the layout's really new or unique or does really good things to make the adventure easier to sort of digest, which is something that D&D products usually just like, here's the backstory, and they roll it out in like 7 paragraphs on like 3 pages. But I would say maybe D&D, but the one that I think of most often is Call of Cthulhu 6th edition, where the pages are all black with white type and cursive, and there are really scary sort of illustrations of H.P. Lovecraft with his glassy, dead eyes looking back at you off the page. That's probably the product that when I first read it, I was like, I like the game. I like the aesthetic of like playing a bookish nerd, being seeing something that they shouldn't be seeing. But when I saw that book out, like they had sidebars for like critical rules, just sort of scattershot across 200 pages. So you'd find like the rules for your character's health on like page 56 after you had learned about inventory items. You know, things like that would just be. That was probably the product that messed me up the most when it comes to layout.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Or more specifically, made me be like, this could be better, probably.
I think I have my answer.
Okay.
For the viewing audience, the answer is
Spire.
Spire. The layout gets the job done, but I think in this book, the art is doing all of the heavy lifting to make me happy to look at it. But like the layout is like a fairly basic, here's 2 columns of text. The right page has a spiral that's weird behind it, and the left page doesn't. Yeah, and sometimes there are callouts. Yeah, there's just nothing really doing anything for me here.
Yeah, which is pretty wild for Spire. Seeing as Spire is like so like influential in its own way. It's got a bit of an iconic status among some groups.
Right. It's like
you'd expect it to be a little bit wilder.
Yeah, the art in here has a very good aesthetic.
That's cool. Yeah.
So for it to not be coupled by something that feels similar in the text is I mean, it's fine, but I think it missed something there. Missed an opportunity to be more than it is.
Yeah, the art and the writing is so good that and that's like you answered my prompt. You've passed the test. No, just like it didn't reach its 100% like potential because it got set up to have like a really cool layout based off everything else being so good.
Right.
All right, that was the spicy take. Now we're gonna go over to Jeremy Gage here. What board games have not found their way into the RPG space that you think should? And you cannot choose a cop-out like Gloomhaven or Descent or any of these games that are basically RPGs already but aren't.
So are you looking like mechanically? Like
it could be either mechanically or it could be about those delicious looking colorful cubes that come in lots of different games.
Okay.
Those are scientifically proven to make a game better. The chunkier and brighter they are.
The little blocks.
Yeah, when you I can't remember which game it is, but it's like Seasons where it's got like big chunky dice. They look like everlasting gobstoppers.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like I know for a fact that who cares about the mechanics? That game is fun because of those colors.
Yeah, the mechanics are fine in that game, but you still had a nice time because of how nice it is.
Mm-hmm. Big old chunky boy dice.
I will say that my experience with a ton of board games is limited. I've maybe played a total of 15, but I do have an answer.
Good.
I think that there is a lot. Me and Viditi Valetti talked about how a lot of tactical RPGs need to take less from war games, like moving forward, and more from like board game style ethos of like abstracted movement and figuring out how to load things on the cards, et cetera, et cetera. But my answer is that it's kind of a board game, but it's also a video game. It's called Armello. And I think Armello could definitely find its way into an RPG role play space. And it does not have that. It doesn't have it has a story mode, but it's not something you're like trying to engage with other players in a multiplayer fashion. And it is very board game. This is not a cop out to say it's a video game. It plays exactly like a board game. It has dice rolls, movement tiles, all these sorts of things. For anyone who may not know, Armello is a game where you play as anthropomorphic characters with their own backgrounds and special abilities as the characters. For instance, I think the generic character is like this warrior werewolf person, and you have decks of cards that let you do special abilities and things like that, items and like event cards. And the objective of the game is that you're trying to either kill the tyrannical king or help him obtain like dark magic curses. There's like 2 or 3 different winning conditions, but I think that's a game that could see itself into an RPG space for sure.
Nice. You managed. So I used to teach board games at like a game convention and everything else, and you managed to find like a video game board game that I had not actually played yet. So now I'm just like, curse you, Jeremy Gage. but that's good. Awesome. Yeah. You know what? Let's just extend that to Adam because do you have one before you guys send me on my way?
I think it'd be cool to do not a specific one, but like a worker placement RPG.
Right.
Something where like, which I think like Grasping Nettles is on the way there. Obviously it's not worker placement at all, but like having a bunch of different actions and then being able to like select them on every turn. I think there's something there that eventually I'll explore. And then the other half would be anything social deduction, but also I'm working there.
Yeah, makes me think of because you already see in a lot of RPGs like base building and hirelings and things like that, and it's like we're just like one step towards like worker placement. It's like, oh, you got a hireling, put them on this thing, and they will produce this benefit or this like in fiction like aesthetic thing.
Yeah, that kind of stuff could be really good for handling like those downtime / like background administrative stuff. Is just anything that is just purely mechanical so that you can get back to the fun part without having to be like, oh, well, where do our hirelings go?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good. Make one of those. Anybody?
Yeah, it's out there. You can go ahead and it's already been packaged in literal boxes with art. So just go find one, and turn it into a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm looking at your chat, and somebody mentioned Waterdeep, and I'm like, yep, that's it. I mean, like, so here's the thing. I want to go on a thing, and then you guys can kick me.
Please. The queue is currently empty, so like the floor is yours.
Yes. This is why I chose today and not last week.
Sophomore app.
Here's the best part about Waterdeep for me. Anyone who's familiar with Waterdeep is about a city in Dungeons and Dragons Forgotten Realms where a bunch of rich people who wear masks control the city secretly, and they're a character in the fiction. And Waterdeep, instead of playing the adventurers like you normally would in a D&D game, you are playing the masked lords who use adventurers like pawns in their little economic game. And to me, that is the most Waterdeep game ever made, because because whenever you play like Dungeons and Dragons, or you hear about people playing Dungeons and Dragons, they're always the adventurers, and the bad guys are always like some dragon out in the countryside or some mad wizard underneath the mountain. But no, the real bad guys in Waterdeep are the lords of Waterdeep, who give you the quest to go kill the dragon and then skim off about 90% of your winnings.
Right.
So they can continue their little political game, and then your adventurer dies in their bed for some reason because they ticked off somebody. Oh, God. But that's a great game, though. Like, I mean, it's a very simple Euro, but there's something about taking a bunch of cubes, they're like of one color, and being like, and then you have to move them off the board, and you're like, oh, those are 7 clerics dead now, just gone clerics. They're over.
7 little cubes.
I'm sure they'll be
Look
fine.
at those. It's okay. We got a whole box of clerics we can go through before the game is over.
They did a lot of praying. I'm sure their God will take care of them. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
God.
Yeah, but there's something about I think there's the board game aesthetic that you have like a stick and you're like little Napoleon and you're just pushing cubes on a map. That feels good, and I want to see more of that in an RPG product. That or just the colorful cubes that you want to put in your mouth and eat, but you can't because they're covered in lead paint or whatever.
Yeah. One thing that I'm currently designing towards in like the big project that eventually I'll start really working on is I want more games that are like, if you did essentially no role playing, are fun, but then if you bring in the element of role playing, so like it's constantly prompting you to like set scenes and stuff.
Yeah.
Then it's like a really great time. I want to see more of that. So like things that can bring people into the role-playing space from the board game space by giving them a set of rules that like if you were a complete boring square and never spoke once as your character, you still had an okay time. But then gradually you start playing the character. Is something like that is good for the future.
A good game for that would be like Werewolf.
Yeah.
In many ways, is a RPG to most people. Like most people like gravitate to like immediately creating this narrative in their heads that the person they're accusing is like nefarious for no reason. Like when I was running conventions and stuff, there would always be that one scapegoat. It's just a random person who came into the game and now they're being like strung up as being this like heinous person just because they didn't talk for like 5 minutes. And
It's me.
Oh no.
Yeah, there's a lot in any of those social deduction games. There is a lot of just absolute bullshittery that you start getting into, which definitely verges on the role playing. Yeah, good.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I'm not saying that Werewolf is good because I don't enjoy it. But that is one of those games where like you don't need to be a role player to engage with it. And in fact, the moment you have to defend yourself, suddenly you're role playing, right?
Yeah, I definitely do a lot of
like a little bit.
Oh, I was just sitting here making toast. Like if you get a role that's like the chef or something, like
I wasn't plotting. I was on my phone.
Yeah. What do you mean? I'm not big braining over here. That's my curse. They always think I'm big braining, but that's because I'm extra about any competitive game. So
there's this board game called Resistance, which is similar.
I think that's my favorite.
And I played that game probably over 100 times now, and I am the spy 95% of the time.
Oh, you're
I
one
don't
of
know.
those?
It's not something I want to be. It's just the card finds me and ends up in my hand, and I can't play the game anymore because everyone's just like, oh yeah, plays the spy. Like they just say that the first second before the game has even started to new people, like plays the spy. And then, and the worst part is that I'm looking at my card and I am.
It's true.
They're
It's
not
always
wrong.
true.
I
They're
had
not wrong, but just once I'd like to be nice. I'd like to be the good guy.
at my work a while back, people played back when we went to the office and stuff. People played whenever I wasn't there. People got out like Secret Hitler, and then I would bring the Resistance because I just prefer it in basically every way. But this one guy every time was always Hitler, and then one time I ran 2 Rooms and a Boom for them. Same guy was the
game.
bomber. It's just like every time this dude plays any sort of secret role game, he's the ultimate bad guy, and it's. I never get to. I want to be the bad guy. It's so
Same.
fun.
I love 2 Rooms and a Boom. I actually have a signed like box of it on my shelf over here
Ooh.
at my apartment.
Yeah, I'm a
And
fan.
it's got Alan Girding and Sean McCoy of Mothership fame's like names like on, because Sean McCoy and them designed that game before they did RPGs. And my favorite card in that is called Clown, and it's a role where if you have it, you have to smile all the time, no matter what. You can never break your smile, and people hate the person who has the clown card because they're like, why are you smiling? And the clown person can't tell them why they're smiling.
Well, they can,
So-
but the other person,
Oh yeah,
like there are
that's why
12
they
other
can't-
people that are pretending to be the clown that are also just
Yes.
doing it, which is
Everyone's
when those
smiling,
roles really
yeah.
shine. It's like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
not the
you-
bomber.
Yeah, so you get all these conspiratorial people all like gathered around, and they're all being like, one of you's the bomber, but they're all smiling like the Joker from ear to ear. It's terrifying, but it's so good. It's it's an excellent weird game.
Yeah, big fan. I was supposed to help demo their games during cons last year, but obviously that didn't happen. But I was really looking forward to it because they make some, besides Mothership. I mean, Mothership's great, but all of their other games are a ton of fun.
Yeah, that's not Lemonade and Russian Roulette. All those are not regular Russian Roulette. Mind you,
World
everyone.
Championship Russian
World
Roulette.
Championship Russian Roulette, and with a surprisingly, despite being World Championship, the fatality rate is almost 0.
The real life one. In character. Speaking of games
Yeah.
that make you kind of role play.
Oh god.
Well, yeah. What time is it? I
It's,
can't see my clock
4:39
because the camera's in the way.
EST.
Cool. Well, if you have any other things to bring up, you're welcome to. But
I
you don't
really-
also
I really
don't
came
have
in
to
with
stay
just
to hold
two.
the show.
Oh no! I mean, like, God, you guys can go ahead and have another conversation. I'll watch the rest of it. I should probably get back to editing this doc for this other game designer.
Oh,
This
cool.
secret project.
Secret project.
Nah, it's not secret. It's for a jam someone has, and they're Brazilian, so I'm here to make sure that the Portuguese has made the voyage to English and represented itself well enough,
Oh, cool.
which
Yeah.
will be fun.
Well, do you have,
But,
on that note, do you have anything to plug? Any of your perhaps editing / layout services?
Yes. Okay. Well, so here's the
Blog.
thing. I don't design games. I'm the one of those people who writes about games in the game world. But that said, I do want to promote other people. So I think everyone should check out the RPG LATAM Jam. That's Latin American Jam. There's so many amazing games that are coming out of South America, Central America, Mexico. All those places that you should check out. And the best part is you don't have to be of that demographic to participate. In fact, if you're not part of that demographic, you should participate because the games that are already out there are really, really cool, and they're just covered in hooks. They're Velcro. Like you can just stick a bunch of stuff to them and it'll look really cool. So there's that. And then I don't know. I mean, there's just so many other games coming out there, coming from other places. I'm constantly seeing games coming from like the Fria Login sort of community, and the what is it, the Stockholm Cartel with all their partially evil things that they've made. They all look gorgeous, so definitely check those out as well. But and I'll probably be on Jeremy's Draw Your Dice podcast sometime in the future.
This week. Next week. Next week.
Okay.
Are you whispering next week?
Yeah, next week.
It's good. It's good. What?
Cool.
I don't know when, but you should tune in because there's me, and then there's much more eloquent and galaxy brainy people coming up with all these sort of things about ideas and stuff. About
You're also galaxy brain. What do you mean?
But anyway, yeah, that's my plug. Latin American Jam, check it out. You can see that on Itch. You can also use the hashtag on Twitter. Check out the games that are coming out of places that aren't America in general. And then, of course, go on Draw Your Dice and download it. Listen to it while you're cooking food and running through Brooklyn or whatever it is that your life contains.
Is this your life?
Cool.
Just tell us your life.
Always cooking food and running through Brooklyn.
No, I'm walking awkwardly through the north end of Boston. But that's so whatever parallel you may have in your own life. But anyway, yeah. Thanks, guys. It was great being on.
Cool. Have a great day.
Bye.
Damn, nobody's let me kick them today. All right. I mean, there's
Power move.
currently a clear queue.
Yeah, with 10 viewers with 2 questions. Huh. Where's the questions, people?
Here's one. Ask me a question, Jeremy.
Oh, God. First of all, to follow up, because you got to answer the board game question as well, the layout game, the game that has poor layout but I like is Overlight, the Overlight RPG. I think I like the game, I like the setting, but it's I think it tried to fill a page count with width. So tables are very long for no reason with the amount of information in them, and the text doesn't separate nicely, and I can't tell where I'm supposed to be reading. But other than that, great game.
I wonder if that's why I didn't buy it. I remember I was at Gen Con whenever that came out, and it was being demoed to a table, and I just stood there and watched it and got a pitch of it and thought that game sounded pretty cool. And that was when I was starting to really look for RPGs and stuff. And because that year, maybe it was 2 years at Gen Con, I just went and was I'm sick of board games. Actually, I'm gonna get into RPGs heavy.
Actually,
now I miss board games. It's the opposite now. I want to get back.
I know you're gonna have that quote unquote big box project. Let's do it. But question for you. Let's see.
Let's say you were a caller.
Sure. And I want to know something about game design, or tangential to game design.
Right. Or you wanted to tell a story about a game you've played, or nobody's done that yet.
Nobody's told a story. I could probably
spin a yarn.
Spin a yarn. I think that I'll tell a story of when because I want to commiserate with people who have gone to conventions or other your local game store and play and didn't have a great reception. So I had just started playing D&D, but I wanted to start branching out into other RPGs and other groups, because the group I was a part of had a bunch of 9-to-5 situations, and they had spouses and partners, and we could not get the schedules to come together. So we were playing once a month, bi-monthly, something to that effect. And so I went out to play. I went out to my friendly local game store, and I found a table. The owner was there's a couple games we run on Sundays that people can just pop in and drop in on. I was oh, cool. I'd love to do one of those. And one of the people happened to be there at the same time. A guy that was running a Shadowrun game. And that was my first and only experience with Shadowrun. I haven't played since, because the event left a particularly bad taste in my mouth. It was that I went to the store, I was all excited, I didn't really have the necessary amount of D6s for the game, so I went and bought like a tower of D6s, one of those little like 12 by 9 whatever doodads, 12 by 4, and I started playing, and it was a pre-written adventure, and it was one of those situations where the GM in question came slightly unprepared, and I don't want to knock like anyone's work schedule or anything, but it was definitely this like grindy feel of just reading paragraphs off of this printed out PDF and like having to reference that in like the really hard railroad of something. And I was new to the game. I didn't understand anything that was on my character sheet. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing in any way, shape, or form. And there's a couple, this husband and wife that were playing that showed up. And they already gave off like sort of a really intense air of dominance when it came to the table.
Oh,
and then there were two other
not a good air.
Not a good air at all, let me tell you. So I was sitting there, and one of the players was very kind. This other guy who was a little bit quieter throughout the whole thing, but when the role play started happening, it became this power gamey. The couple, the husband and wife, had like these very decked out, like Adventure League style characters, and they were literally telling me like not to do anything. It was like this adventure they were running, and I was playing this, what was it? I can't remember what the name of the goddamn class. It's like a thief or a smuggler or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so like part for me being this like my 10th game, we were in this aristocrat's house, and I was like, oh, I just want to do a little role play here. I want to take one of these golden spoons. I want to try to make a roll for one of these golden spoons. And the dude was like, the husband was like, no, don't do that. Like, do not roll that. You're gonna fuck this up for us. I was like, wait, hold
Jesus
on, man. Like,
Christ. I need to go.
But I was I felt obligated and polite to like be locked in for 3 hours. But that was like the whole thing. Like the whole time we were there, it was just those two running the show. They had weapons and actions and abilities and stuff that just like blew out combats. So I couldn't like the other two didn't care. It seemed like they were there to just kind of like hang out and just like have their character sheets in front of them, but not engage. And I'm like, what is happening? And it was at that point that I decided that I would be the forever GM, because I think there's definitely something to be said about cultivating an experience at a table and cultivating healthy relationships between people. I never went back to the game. I never went back to the game store because it was so bad. Like, I just did not have fun at all.
Yeah,
that's my story.
I've never played an RPG at a game store or with strangers that wasn't online in a community of people that like didn't suck shit.
That was the only time I've had a negative experience in a role-playing game. That wasn't just like a rules thing. Like, I don't like the game because the game does this thing. It didn't have anything to do with the people. So, but yeah, that was probably my gatekeeper experience.
Your official gamer story.
Yeah, my official gamer story.
Ugh. Somebody has climbed into the queue.
Yeah.
Would you believe it?
In the home stretch.
Discord user, longtime caller, MV. Why don't we bring them in?
Yeah, come on in.
Let's see what's going on. Hey, thanks for calling the Tabletop Call-In Show. Who is this? That's very accusatory.
I'm a bit loud, probably.
You're a bit quiet, actually.
I'm a bit quiet? Ooh.
Yeah. I just went to turn you up, and I have you at 186% already. So.
Damn.
How's it going?
Is it good now? No, it's going great. Actually, speaking of local game store stories. Like, there was a GM at my local game store that decided to run a Mothership one-shot, like right after it came out, essentially. And that's what introduced me to like games that are not D&D. And I'm like forever grateful that I went to that game. It was really fun. that's my gamer story. And I saw
Positive.
you were low.
Positive
I saw
gamer story.
I saw you were low on colors, so I decided to just call in.
Oh, this is a pity call.
Yes, I'm
Which
gonna
is
be
fine.
honest.
We need the pity.
uh, I have like a couple of questions I might ask you. How is it? Oh no, not how is it. Um, I'm sort of designing a GM-less experience
Ooh.
for another game,
Okay.
which is, long story short, I'm making a GM-less hack. Why designing a GM-less experience? And I'm thinking, like, what do you think, like, is GM-less play bad at? Sort of maybe what genres or what areas it's like lacking in. For example, like you can't have like pre-written stuff isn't good with GMless because of course no one person can like be in charge of this pre-written thing. And also I want to kind of talk about what GMless is good in and what areas it can grow and expand in.
Jeremy?
This is a good one. I will try my hand at this with the 0 games I've designed, but I've read a lot in the recent months. I think to answer the question about where GM-less games struggle, one you already mentioned is games that have sort of this adventure writing paradigm about it, because there's a conversation to be had about like, I don't know. I'm one of those people that are unaffected A by spoilers and also B unaffected by immersion. So like I can read an adventure and still play my character in the sense that like I'll tell the story that my character was meant to tell, not the story that like Jeremy the player, unless that's what the game requires of me to do. But potentially I can also see it. I don't know if it's a genre of game, but games that sort of rely on a concept of that each player makes a character that brings their own goals to the table. So there's no like unifying goal of the game. And so when everyone has very desperate goals, so I experienced this like when I played D&D games and had players like there's a central through line, but they all want to do like these B side story things, and that kind of like pulls and tugs at the whole group as an entity. So I think that it doesn't work well in games that allow character creation to have a character with its own unique goal that isn't like limited by what the main thoroughfare of the game is. And part of that is like has to do with GM nuance or table nuance, like, hey, what are the themes we're trying to do here, right? If it presents those tools, it's probably fine. But for the ones that don't, I think I think a GM-less game requires a very strong thematic to make sure that everyone's on the same page and we're all like walking the same direction, so we can all use the same tools to enhance the resonance of all the players at the table.
Yeah, I can definitely see that because, like in AGM, the game, you like have a person whose role is to guide the play, and if you don't have that, you would need a very strong unifying theme for everyone to be on the same page.
And then the second question was how can GM, maybe what is the room for growth when it comes to GM-less games? Is that correct?
Yeah. What's like the strong area you see in a GM-less game?
I think that it is creative flexing, because I think a lot of traditionally like GM games, and I speak of this like whatever intuition I have about the D&D scene, right? I think there's this misconception that when you come to a D&D game, the GM is responsible for all narrative control weight, and players don't really have like the ability to mix those things outside of their own character agency, right? Like I think a lot of time players can feel like they can't say like, oh, I would love to see this thing in the world, or I would love to see this piece of setting, or I would love to see this NPC come back, or something like that.
Mhm.
And I think one of the strengths to GMless games is that it allows training in those departments that you can it enhances your creative muscles when you bring it back to other games. So I think that the strength of a GMless game is that it can enhance your own personal role play because it trains you how to use prompts or think outside the box, or how to subvert certain tropes or themes and make those more interesting for your particular mix of colors at the table. So I think that's definitely a really great strength of GMless games that I've loved. Like I played Iron Sworn and also I've tried a couple solo games, and it's really helped me get an idea of how to ask certain questions of my players in GM games. Like, hey, you know, moving forward, what do you want to see more of, right? Like using the highlights or stars and wishes sort of uh, system or experience towards other games that don't have them.
I think GMless games are, unless they're specific structures for this, I think usually they're pretty bad at like consequences, because a lot of people, until you give them the tools and like set the stage, a lot of people I think will lean more towards like pulling punches, especially in consequences for other player characters, because it's like, oh, we're all here, you know, because when you're the GM, like it's kind of your job to push on shit. But whenever nobody has that job, I think it can be very easy for people to like sit back and like, oh, I do have a good idea about how this could get real fucked up, but I'm not going to bring it up because like I don't want to infringe on that player's player agency. So like I think an important thing in GMless design is setting up a conversation between players on like ways that they can infringe on each other's agency, like as characters. Because if at the beginning of the game you're all like, hey, yeah, you can do stuff to my character, but I just get I get final say on like what ends up happening. Like I can veto a little bit more. I think that can go a long way towards people being like, oh yeah, if you are trying to do this, well, this logically this is what would happen whenever you do that. And so I'm going to make that happen. Is that cool? As opposed to just being like, well, I don't know if they want me to be, you know, setting these things to happen. So I'm just going to not say anything. And a lot of that is going to be comfort with a group. But I think providing some sort of structure in the game itself, it like can go a long way towards cultivating groups to play in a way. Because like on the flip side of that is whenever GMless play is kind of like is working really well, and like when the group is like firing on all cylinders together, it has a potential to like push forward further, because whenever you are setting your own consequences in conjunction with other people, as opposed to looking up to the GM and saying, okay, what happens whenever everybody's pushing, like you'll probably push harder like with your own character, I think, than the GM would. Because even like as GM, I often might pull punches, but I'm a little bit too nice, I think. I think did I get both? I think I got both.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that. Yeah. Especially, I think this kind of like, I have like a second mini question sort of.
Ooh.
And this really nicely segues into that. Because I was thinking how to do horror in a GMless game. And if you know horror GMless games, I would be like totally down for suggestions. But basically, horror is this weird genre in RPGs, because a horror in film and in books comes from the character losing agency of the world around them, or their like themselves. And that's what like is scary to us, is losing agency. But losing agency is like, it's most of the time not fun, or like just like it's just not good in an RPG. Like when a GM can't say to you like, you're scared now. Like you won't become scared from that. And if a GM like just does to your character what you don't want, it's just like it's just a bad game. So how like yeah, this area is very interesting to me. How do you do an RPG well, a horror RPG well, that's not just outright like horrible.
So I know you know, Envy, I know you know about Cobwebs, but for the listening audience, Cobwebs does horror, GMless horror, I think pretty well, which would be it. Like that leads me to my answer on how you would do that, and that is with mechanics that take away certain types of agency. So like I think the agency in particular that mechanically a game like Cobwebs takes away is like when the ending happens, or like the fates of certain characters, or like the vibe of certain scenes. Like it gives you what you have to play into, and so having mechanics that like provide a structure for what you play into are really important. I think that's the only GMless horror game I've played personally.
Yeah, that's my issue too. Like I haven't seen much, and I played only one. So
yeah, my favorite horror game that I've played that has a GM is 10 Candles, and I think you could learn things from there as well. But like the candles themselves providing that like mechanical stripping of agency, while not like infringing on what your character actually does, just limiting their options and presenting an eventual end.
Speaking of which, 10 Candles removes agency in a very like visual and a literal way, where you have these dice. You have a pool of dice. I think it's 10. Yeah, I think it's 10.
It's one die per candle. So the players get however many dice are still lit candles.
And you start with the players having all the dice, and as the game progresses, the candles blow out, and the GM gets one by one more and more dice. So you have this sort of shift of power and shift of agency. More like the GM, because their pool of dice is bigger, there's more chances that they succeed in what the players try to do. And also, like 10 Candles, I think works really well as a horror game because so much of it is setting the mood. It asks you to play in a dark room with only 10 candles lit. And I think like 80% of the like horror mood comes from that, and the players are instantly like in that vibe.
Yeah, and comes from like you have to genuinely be careful about the candles, because if a candle blows out, it's out. But at the same time, you're like moving the candles around to try to see what your die roll is. There's just a lot of that game's good. If you haven't played that game, you should play that game in person. If eventually
we had a
real.
moment. Yeah, I think it was January last year. Actually, it was my birthday game.
Nice.
Real fun. It's a real fun game to play on your birthday, because it takes like a lot of people to play too. And someone was like passing the chips during character creation. So it's, even before the game starts, you have to light the candles for character creation. And someone was passing chips, and the like bowl of chips blew out a candle. And everyone was like, "Oh no!" And when everyone said "Oh no," like there was this like exhaling of air. And when everyone said "Oh no," even more candles blew out. So it was even worse.
Hard mode.
It's a real fun game.
Yeah, the first time I ran that, everybody like decided to take a bathroom break halfway through, which like I was like, yeah, sure, of course, we should take a break. But what that meant is when we got towards the end, like the candles just started going out because we were playing for longer than we were supposed to, because of that extra like 15-minute break. So the last few scenes, because every time a candle goes out, if you don't know how the game works, every time a candle goes out, the scene ends. And so like it was like the players furiously trying to roleplay to get themselves to a good place before it was over. because like the candles were really dwindling. It was fucking what a good game.
What a good game.
What a good game.
What a good game.
Damn.
I was also going to add to like the talk of how to do horror and RPG. I think a lot of time people, you already said this, but it's like you can't tell someone to be scared. You can only set them up to be scared. So you can't use like words, you can't use jump cuts from like films, right? And you don't want to get so prosy that you know, bore everyone to death in your description. So like two of the big things that I think about are ambiance or atmosphere, like 10 candles, like that totally sets your mood. And then the other thing is mechanics that elicit tensions, like usually time is something to play with, I think, for horror, because when you think about 10 candles or games like Dread, the Jenga game, the Jenga role-playing game, like the time is in when does the tower fall, right? Like the tension keeps stacking every time you do something with the Jenga tower. So like whatever explicit or implicit mechanics you have within the text or game or whatever, or if you add tools like a Jenga tower or candles or whatever like that, I think tension and atmosphere are really big components to creating and setting up horror. After that, I think it would be challenging for someone. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think it'd be challenging to try to write something to scare someone. All you can do is rely on the skill of the players at the table and what they're comfortable with exploring, because you also don't want to write things that induce traumatic experiences in people, right? Or that poke on those things that they may have inside of them. So I think just the setup. I think focusing on writing the setup and then letting them execute. Let them get their own payoff, which will work for them.
And I think what you noticed is like the mechanics and the this setup. I forgot how the word is. You have like these are things that are very that everyone can sort of make, and it doesn't matter if you're good at it or not, it will work. Like mechanics will work for everyone, and if you have a dark room with 10 candles, it's a dark room with 10 candles for everyone. And if your GM is like very bad at reading a paragraph of prose, like it won't have the same effect as like a very skilled GM reading a paragraph of prose.
Yeah.
So
a skilled orator.
Yeah, opera singer. Why there's no opera RPG? There should be. I think there is. Yeah.
Well, we'll be waiting for your opera RPG. That's for sure. Yeah. Cool.
Thanks so much for your feedback. It's great.
Yeah.
Love the call-in show.
Thanks for calling in. Yeah, if you got anything.
See you. Adam, want to kick me?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to no plugs or anything before we kick you?
My plug is vmv.itch.io and @mayvisit on Twitter. I think I will be doing jams on a regular basis from now on because I have so many ideas. I have so many ideas, you can't believe. It will take me years to get through all the jam ideas.
I love it.
So yeah, look out for that, and I'll see you soon.
Cool. See you around.
Cool.
Always.
See you.
Cool. That about does it, huh?
Yeah.
Any last minute thoughts before we stampede on out of here?
Horror's good.
Yeah.
Layout's good.
Yeah. Board games are good.
Board games are good.
Kickstarter is not good, but
yeah.
But we got to use it.
Listen to Adam Bell's second episode coming out soon to hear more about that.
Yeah, that's probably 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3.
Speaking of
in 1 month.
Yeah. Well, I've been Adam Bell. I don't think we did proper introductions for ourselves at the beginning, so thank you for making it to the end. I've been Adam Bell. You can find me on Twitter at AdamyBell. You can find the games that I make over at adamybell.games, including my current itch fund thing called Reliance, which is a game about building up the society that you live in after a big-time socialist revolution. So go check that out. That should be coming out in April. Grasping Nettles, I think, will be coming out, I'm going to say May. I think that's what I said in the Kickstarter. More to come out in the future. Jeremy, what's up with you?
Yeah, you can find me at JeremyGage5 over on Twitter, that you can see in the little note below me. You can listen to the Draw Your Dice podcast. You got it. You did it. You pointed. And that is on Red Circle and also all of your favorite podcast distributors now at this point. And if it's not, find the RSS feed and figure it out.
Yeah.
I can figure it out. That's what I would say. And yeah.
And while we're at it there, you can find the Tabletop Call-In show there as well. So if you're joining us late or perhaps are going to miss a future episode, you can listen afterwards. Just look for the Tabletop Call-In show on your podcast app of choice, or go get the RSS feed at Tabletop Call-In on Twitter. You'll find the links there. And that's it. I think that's the show. I'm gonna boot the viewers over to the All Nerds Here. I think the puppet show is still happening, so you can enjoy 1 or 2 rounds of our song, and then and then get on out of here. So have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for stopping by.
And